ReefDudes is sponsored by Ecotech Marine and Bulk Reef Supply. Today we're going to finish off building the ultimate mixing station. What's going on, guys? Den from ReefDudes. Now you might have remembered a while back when I built the original mixing station, and you know, being a reefer, you got to be creative, and I had to find a way to actually fit a mixing station in my house. So I ended up getting a stacker, washer and dryer, utilizing the space that you have to work with. Now in this case, I ended up getting these two rectangular bins from a local plastic shop. Now a lot of places will do it. I think these are probably technically for like RVs or something along that line, for like the water storage tanks. I had them cut the lids on the top, and it's worked out really well. Now for this, today we're going to be doing some upgrades. Actually, first I'll give you a quick overview of what the current setup is. So I do have an EB832 that is down here, and this does connect to the one up above, so it is part of my main apex. We got a booster pump, and it goes into my RODI system. There is a solenoid on it, so we'll kick it on and off based on the level sensors in the tank. And again, it runs through my RODI system, and the output comes here to a couple different options. I have one that is just for flexibility, so I have a hose that I can, you know, take around the house and fill up stuff or do a mixing bin. The other one goes to, I got two different valves. So one's for freshwater, one's for saltwater, and that goes to whatever bin it's filling. And there also is a flush valve if I do want to do some manual flushing. Some lovely nasty surface stuff in there, so this bin definitely does need a good cleaning, so we'll see if we can surface skim that stuff out and touch it up. If you look inside, I do have an optical sensor in the bottom, and that's to know when it's empty. Then there's also one up top, as well as the two float valves. And that's my circulation pump, an old MP40. Now a little overkill, but I do appreciate not having any holes in the bottom of the bin, which you normally have with a mixing pump. If you look at the water side, same thing. I got two little Neptune pumps in there. We got our little float valve for filling. Again, some optical sensors and a couple things inside. So it does refill itself when it's empty. It will kick on the solenoid, refill itself, and turn off when it hits the high. Now there's also two pumps in there because one of them is for my ATO. I also have one of these Versas is to feed my kelk, so it pulls the RODI water to feed it through the kelk reactor. The other one's for auto water change purposes. And that other little P-mump is to put water from this bin to that bin. So I can either have it filled directly from the RODI system via one of those valves, or I can push a button on the apex and have it transfer over. So it's more of a transfer pump. And this has been a pretty sweet setup, but today we are upgrading it. So what are we doing? Now I've been stocking up parts for months, and I finally have enough parts to do everything I want to do. So what are we installing today? So we have the FMM module, and that's basically because I want to add these two level sensors so I can glance at my phone, know how much water's in each of my bins. And that can also work as a secondary kind of fail-safe, so if, you know, an optical sensor failed, I could trigger stuff off either the level sensor or the optical, so we're going to program it for both. I'm also adding two leak sensors, so I'll put one down there just, you know, if anything ever overflowed, I would be alerted. So I'm going to put one there, and I might actually put one up higher because I do have a bin, some water above that fills, so if I can fish it up there, then it'll alert us in either. And this is something I want to do for a long time, is add a conductivity probe inside. Now I went with the 2-foot level sensors because I believe they will just fit inside, but the moment of truth, beautiful. Yeah, so they basically just fit perfectly. First question I guess is going to be, will it fit through my existing wire hole? Haha, victory. It's like it was meant to be. Now it's tight, but we got it. Beautiful, so that tuck just perfectly into the corner. So that 2-foot one was like the perfect one to pick up. Same with this one, you can kind of see it goes down by the bottom of the pumps and comes up and just fits in there. So I think that's going to work out pretty well. So next we're going to install our modules. So I do have my old FMM module up here. I think I'm going to install the two new ones right here. And it's kind of underneath the shelf and easy to get to. I did just run an Aquabus cable down. So I'll mount those two guys to the wall and we'll set stuff up in Fusion. Now the next big question is how to make this float. For that we're going to be using a pool noodle, so I'm just going to cut a little strip that goes around it. Now it should just bob around as my water level changes and keep the probe nicely in the water with a little boot out of it just for longevity. Now this might be a little bit of a slightly unconventional spot, but I think I'm actually going to put my secondary leak sensor right up here. This is where all my water lines for everything run up to the tank. And if something was to leak, it would run down the line. So right in here is actually probably a really good spot to put my secondary water sensor, just in case something leaked from up above. So I've got one on the floor, which should cover, you know, any of these connections on the back of the bins, the fursos, any of those connections, as well as my RDI, because if it does leak, it could likely come down the wall here and it would trip that sensor. And then putting the one just inside this little pocket should catch anything that could potentially leak from down from the tank. Alright guys, we've got everything installed now. It's pretty sweet. I got all the tiles on the new dashboard. So now I got our mixing salt bin, we got our mixing RO bin, so it's pretty cool to be able to actually see the levels inside of it. We got our probe inside. I did just dump in some salt, so it'll probably take a little bit to update and show that. Two other big things. I've got the leak sensor on the floor down there, and as well as one on the roof above me where all the wires run through. Now another cool thing, the FMM modules also have a built-in alarm. So I did tell it to do the audio alarm if either of those do a leak. So if we click into that one, just if either the leak mix, the wall or the floor are closed, then on. And I also put code inside of my email alarm. So if that alarm is turned on, then it's also going to turn on the email alarm, and it's also going to turn on the LED alarm. So just to show you guys the audio alarm, so you can kind of hear it. So if something is leak, it's going to do an audio alarm that you can see. And if you guys remember, I also did the LED alarm. It might be a little bit hard to see right now, but you can kind of see the red glow on the roof upstairs. So it will be doing alarms in multiple different places, which I think is really cool. All right guys, so just a few kind of lessons learned, pro tips, things that I would recommend. If you are getting, you know, trying to do something like I'm doing and making your mixing station work with the space that you have, you know, get the biggest bins you can, get whatever fits in there and maximize that space. The rectangle bins really did utilize the space better than a lot of other stuff. Also these really big portholes that I put in top, highly recommend these. Just makes your life easier, giving you easier access to everything. Get your arm in there, super easy to clean and maintain it. If you are automatically filling it, use float valves, very, very important. You want to make sure that, you know, they'll shut off the RODI. I have it shut off with an optical switch that is controlled to a solenoid, so if that optical switch is triggered, it shuts off the feed line to the booster pump. The booster pump also has that little back pressure switch on it, shut it off. And as well, there is, so I got the optical sensor, and for the backup plan, I do have the little float valves. So if, you know, something was to go on, then the float valves. You always want to make sure you have that level of backup. Now as a third layer, we also got the leak sensors. So we got the water on floor sensor down there. I added one here just in case something ever leaked from above and ran down the lines. Again, it would trigger that audio alarm. And I'm also going to add some more code in to, you know, again, turn off the booster pump and other stuff if any leak sensors are ever tripped. And that's going to go a long way. Doing little valves, again, make your life really easy. If I need to water, you know, plants or manual mixing bin something, it's already here. All I got to do is flip the one valve open and turn on my booster pump. Super duper easy. Same thing, I got a, you know, a valve if I want to direct the water to the freshwater bin or the saltwater bin. Or I got another flush valve. So all those things just make your life really, really easy. This thing's kind of cool too, that TDS meter plus from Refactory. That was cool because it connects to your Wi-Fi. It'll send me an alert if my TDS is ever above 1. Now because this is automated and it auto fills itself all the time, it can, you know, my RODI bin is constantly refilling itself. And I don't always look at the TDS meter. So having that to alert me is a really cool way to go. Now the other big thing I added on this one was adding the conductivity probe to the saltwater bin. And this is important because if I do automations off this, if I leave, you know, the saltwater valve open, and when it kicks off to refill my RDI, maybe it fills my salt and it changes my salinity. If it's more than, you know, a couple points off, maybe I have it stop my auto water change so I don't start messing with the salinity level of my tank. There's lots of really cool stuff you can do with that with this automation, especially if you're using something like a Neptune controller on it. You can really do a lot with it. So it's really cool. So hopefully you guys were inspired to do something really cool with your own mixing station. I mean, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. If you got any other cool stuff that you've done, I really do want to hear about it, so let me know. Again, guys, if you enjoyed this, hit that like button. If you're new, subscribe. Catch you guys in the next video.